Hello and welcome to the Money School with LaShawn Holland. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules of binging out on Netflix during the COVID-19 shut-in. But whatever the reason is, I am so glad that you are here. So again, welcome and please feel free to share. I was talking to someone yesterday and I had mentioned how I was feeling about some things, and for you to really get a grasp and understand, I've been doing what I've been doing for a really, really long time. And oftentimes, if I am not careful, and oftentimes if I'm not meditating the way that I should meditate, and taking care of me internally, I tend to take on the weight of the issues that people are having with their finances when they contact me, and it can be overwhelming at times because I really do care. I want people to win where their money is concerned, and so I get where we are today. Oftentimes I talk about how wonderful it is of a time to be able to make money. And it is, if you know what to do, if you know where to put your money, if you know where to invest your money, it is. On the flip side of that, for the people who are not positioned, or may not know, right? It can be a really scary time. I looked at the news and I saw that, the lines that people have with food, with just being able to meet their basic needs in life, have a roof over their head, shelter, have food to put on the table to be able to feed their families. And so it can be a very scary, dark time. It can be a time where people fall into, just financial depression. And so I realize that, and I have people that contact me all the time from all over. For the past couple of days, I've been talking to someone who actually lives in India, and, talking about how it's really hit the people, the citizens there in India. And, you count your blessings every day if you're able to eat anything, and you and your kids are not going to bed hungry. It can be very daunting to hear the story sometimes, but as daunting as it is, I know that God is still the God of I am. He's not the God of I was, and I was reading today, and this just jumped after me. I'm pretty sure those of us on here who go to church, you hear this scripture a lot, but it's 3 John 1 and 2. This is, above all, I wish that thou will prosper, mayest prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. And I often say that your money will rise to the level that you do. And that's so important even in these times. And so today I want to talk about the emotional side of money, COVID plus cash. If it wasn't COVID that caused the economy and bubbles to start to be pricked, it would have been something else because of cycles. We talked about cycles last week. If you did not tune into that, then you can go look at some of the other videos that I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks about bubbles and cycles. But I want to take something from the Abundance Attraction Intensive program that I have. I have a 12-month financial education program. And really, when I designed the program, it was everything that I wish someone would have taught me as a teenager. So it would have helped me make better decisions, money decisions. And so I often find a lot of the adults that I work with don't know the basics of money. So anyway, I talk about the money zones inside, I think it's the 4th module inside of the program. So I pulled a lot of what I'm going to talk about today from that particular module. And if you want to learn more about it, you can just go to LaShawnHolland.com and see it. But that word, even as your soul prospers, soul means your thinker, your feeler, and your chooser. those things make up your soul area. And so your thinker is your mindset, your feeling, your chooser deals with your emotions. And so there is an emotional side of money that we need to pay attention to, especially during a time of shifting like we're in currently right now. So when you look at the personal financial concerns today, more than ever, COVID-19 has thrown the global economy or the global financial economy into a tailspin. But this tells me that people's personal economies are in a tailspin because the personal economies make up the global economy, right? And so the personal finance concerns related to the spread of coronavirus, when I look about them, they're increasing and they're mounting. Just today, from this morning, my sons and I watched oil just tumble, right? And so according to, what happened today, oil closed at a negative price for the first time in history. We've never seen this before. And so the bottom really fell out the barrel today for oil. And so when you look at, we've had record drops in single days on Wall Street. We've had the highest or the lowest drop that we've had in a decade. The S&P has dropped more than 7%. This year, the Dow Jones lost 2,000 points. And so when we start looking at this is a result of uncertainty about the global economy. And so the stock market is just one of the measurements of financial crisis that COVID-19 has created. And so, when we look at the economic slowdown because of the mandate for people to, businesses to shut down and people to stay home, retirement savings are plunging. If you have a retirement that's put away inside of a 401k plan, then you're in a panic. My husband, myself, we get messages from people, especially right now. What do? I'm losing money. Can I get an appointment to meet with you? Because people are scared, right? They don't want to spend 30 years of trading their life every day, getting up to see it dwindle and lose. And so personal cash flow has ceased for millions. I read that over 22 million people have filed for unemployment so far, wiping out decades of job gains. And when you look at, working parents are concerned about school closing for the rest of the school year for their kids. People don't have emergency plans in place because nothing like this has ever happened before. They don't have enough sick leave or liberal leave to be able to take them to stay at home with their kids during that time. And so when you have small children, it won't last you until 2021. If you don't have the leave for it. And so people don't save at the rates that they should save at. So when something like this happens, they don't have any money. And so something like this catches them off guard, which is one of the reasons why I'm such an advocate for the $5,000 savings challenge that we do every year at the beginning of every year. And for the people who don't have the savings challenge, or you would like the savings challenge, just let me know. I'll make sure you get it. But one of the reasons why I do this challenge every year is so that people can have a reserve from when times like this has happened. I've been doing this for a few years now with people. I've had people that have was able to do over $30,000 over the past few years that we've been doing it, that they have in savings. I have gotten more people tell me, thank you so much for teaching me how to make savings easy. Because of this, I've been able to still put food on the table. I've been able to still pay my rent or pay my mortgage because of it. And so that's why we started the savings challenge also. And so if you don't have a savings, you have to go into extreme cut mode, right? And so there are only two ways that you can change your financial situation: increase your income or decrease your expenses. There's no demilitarized zone here. There's no gray areas. Increase your income or decrease your expenses. And so for most people, they really have to go into cut mode right now. And cut back on the waste. Stop shopping. Get rid of your streaming services. All the little things that, eat up. Small foxes spoil the vine. I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Benjamin Franklin who says that a small leak can sink a great ship. I got to take my time when I say that. I want the right words to come out. But, and then unexpected medical costs. They said over 7 million people have lost their medical coverage as of right now due to COVID-19. And so I get it's a scary time. I get that even though the global economy is uncertain, you can bring certainty to your own personal economy. And so the scripture says that even as your soul, your thinker, your feeler, your chooser prospers. And so here's what I know, because I've been doing this for almost 3 decades now. A lot of financial anxiety stems from not knowing what will happen with regard to this pandemic that's going on. And so when faced with the unknown, we oftentimes experience what I call a paralyzing anxiety. Right? Financial paralyzation is what happens. And so people tend to stay still. They don't know what to do. And we can't stay still. We can't just allow what's going on to affect us to the point where, we're not trying to do anything. We're not becoming resourceful. I have been so blessed to see some of my clients that are in my Born to Multiply program. Listen, this happened. It was unexpected for them. So they begin to pivot. I had one of my clients call me and was like, thank you so much for teaching me how to pivot. She's been baking, sweet potato pies? She's been baking and delivering sweet potato pies, to bring in extra cash during this time. Hey, my husband says it all the time. When resources are low, become resourceful. I had another client who's an amazing artist. And so her husband's a DJ. And so they've been doing live sessions where he's DJing and she's having people watch her paint. But it was a lead-in for her offering paint parties. So she's doing online paint parties. I think they're called AM Paint. You can look it up. And she sends out pre-drawn kits. Now, this is being resourceful. She sent out pre-drawn kits so you can join her on a particular day, and she has a virtual paint party with people. And so I thought that was an amazing idea. So I sent her a text this morning and said, hey, you should do kid-friendly kits too. Start selling the kid-friendly kits. The kids are at home. Give them something to do so they can still keep up with their arts. And so there are plenty of things that we're able to do during this time. But, a lot of financial anxiety, it has the ability, if you allow it, to paralyze you. And so, again, you can't stay still during this time. Focus on what you can control. There are plenty of things that we can't control. So focus on the things that you can control. One of the things that you can control is calling in supernatural provision. COVID-19, again, it never stops God from being the provider that he is, right? I said it earlier. He's the God of I am. He is I am. He's not the God of I was. So don't let today's economic mayhem distract you. And so the value of time-tested financial truths still endures. And so to rebuild our finances, we have to cast aside or get back to the first principles of it. And so there are times when we all need to rein in our mindset from negative thinking. I don't care what economic level that you're on. I have had friends who are multimillionaires. I have a girlfriend who is afraid now because she says she only has $3 million left in the bank. Like, I know plenty of people who wish they were in that situation. I was on a call maybe a week or so ago with some wonderful people, and one guy shared how during 2008 he almost lost his whole entire business, but he began to ask God, what should he do? And, God gave him a plan, and he went from a $8 million a year revenue business to a $48 million a year revenue business. So just because people are being affected in the economy doesn't mean that your economy can't shift for the better, that your own personal economy can't shift for the better. So that's why, I wanted to talk about emotional spending. And again, too many people have toxic money mindsets and, high amounts of debt. And so even if it's, not, I'm not even talking about becoming a multimillionaire here. I am talking about doing this particular time of opportunity, being able to shift. and do whatever you can. If you got to create something so you can pay down your debt, so you're able to invest your money at this time. And so it's a trap that the lower income wage earners can't really seem to get out of now, but that's because no one's teaching them how much their mindset, how much their emotions, how much their what I call money zones are really holding them back when they don't take the time to correct those areas. And so financial inequality has become such a big issue in this generation, and the wealth gap seems to be getting further and further and further apart, and wages aren't growing, for those at the bottom. And so you have to create your own opportunities, making it really hard for people to pay off debt if they don't know how to create their own opportunities. And not only that, taxes are constantly going up, and so they're forced to deal with wages that aren't growing. And if your wages aren't growing, then you have to grow. One of the things that my kids grew up on me saying to them was, find a way or make a way, right? If a door closed, take 2 steps back and kick the sucker down. Like, find a way to win. And so most people, recently in the past several years, don't receive increase to their income at the rate of inflation. People are not paying attention to inflation. And so people have more than a 40% debt to income ratio, and then comes coronavirus. That's a heavy burden to bear when income isn't growing. And so it's imperative right now, more than ever, I think, that you change not only your money blueprint and position yourself to a better you for your future, but also understand how to be able to shift your emotions when things like this happen. And so financial freedom really is no longer a luxury. It shouldn't even be an option for most people. It's a necessity in today's economy. And now more than ever, you have to wake up to knowing what your triggers are emotionally so you can shift them. And so it's about your emotions, your beliefs, your spiritual awakening, where your money is concerned. And so I'm here to help you, not judge you. I'm only here after results, not judging you for past financial mistakes. To be honest, I really don't care about that. I got my own set of financial mistakes that I've made in my past. And so it doesn't serve either one of us to keep bringing up things that we have done wrong in the past with our money. It would be really stupid of me to do that with people. And so, I just want people to really get results. And I am here oftentimes to wake people up to the blinders, wake people up to the things that they're doing that's hindering them from being able to get ahead financially. And so, I want what you want, which is more money in your pocket. Most people, when I hit the stage, that's one of the first questions that I ask: how many of you can stand to have increased income or a little bit more money in your wallet? And all the hands go up in the air. And so again, I want what you want. But I want people to really wake up to really what's going on, and to be aware, to bring awareness to the things that could be holding them back from moving ahead. So in order for you to get the results, that we have to really begin to dig deep into the roots of our money issues. And some of my programs, I often have people track their money for like 30 days so they can become aware of some of the spending patterns that keep them from getting on the right financial path. And so if that's something that you feel like you need to do, especially now, you should know where all of your coins are going. And so, one of the reasons why we do this is so that we can see how you handle money. And so your financial, habits, I'm able to see clearer what you have, because money doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. People do, but numbers don't lie. And so I know some people who actually wrote to me after going through this program. I always get people, because you can join at any time. And so oftentimes I get people that will send me DMs with responses saying that they didn't realize how much of an impulsive shopper that they was. And so that's really important for you to be able to see right now. Like, we can't afford to be impulsive shoppers when there is a financial crisis, meaning a financial change or financial shift taking place. When economic shifts are happening, it means opportunity is available and the money becomes the magnet to the one that is holding the magnetic field so that it's attracted to it, meaning you now have the avenues that money is attracted to. Case in point, I shared with how we started in the beginning with the vending machines, but if I would have taken that bonus that I've received, or for the people who qualify, I don't qualify for the stimulus. We won't be getting the stimulus check over here. But for the people who actually get qualified to get the stimulus check, what are you going to do differently with it? Not pay bills. You know, some people may, it's imperative that they put food on the table. I get that. But if you feel like that is just something extra right now, put it in something that multiplies. And so I really want you to dig deeper and consider what exactly you feel when you slip up or you venture off your spending plan. When you gain clarity about this, you can become easily, you can begin to easily recognize the desire to deviate before you make financial transactions. And so this is where your money habits really do start to shift, which is important. I remember years ago when we decided that we wanted to get out of debt, I wrote my vision on, actually, I know I have some here because I've been writing all day. I used to have these cards, right here, just like this. And I would write my vision down on the cards. And I would, back then, I carried a checkbook. I don't know too many people that still write checks at registers. But back then, that tells you how long ago it was. I used to put it and tape it inside of my checkbook register. I had it taped. My financial vision was taped on my mirror in my bathroom. So I saw it in the morning. It used to be taped in front of the toilet. So if I was using the bathroom, I saw my vision. It's taped to my garage door. When I leave out of my house in the morning, it's on my garage. I used to have another one taped to the dashboard in my car. So I was always keeping my vision of financial freedom before me. But I remember when I first started, I would just go into the store. I was an impulse shopper, right? If I saw it, it was cute, or if it was something that I thought we needed or could use, I was putting it in the basket. And so what happened was, when I would get up to the register and I will open up my checkbook register, I would see my vision. And I would start putting things back and telling the cashier, I don't need this. I don't want this. Can you please take this back? And so it took a few times of that happening until I can now go into the store and I'm not loading my cart up with a bunch of stuff that I don't need, because I've trained myself to have better financial habits. And so I realized that my purchases were not lining up with my desire to become financially free. And so it wasn't lining up with my desire to be debt free. The decisions that you make with your money now, if it's not lining up with your vision of wanting financial freedom, then it's hindering you from getting to that financial freedom. And once I became aware of this, I started putting stuff back. And so again, what was I doing? I was creating a shift in my money habits and what I was doing with my money. And so I remember on this particular Friday, I live in Maryland. Most Marylanders are crab lovers. We love seafood. And our season for the blue crab opened up on Friday. And by my house is a seafood store. And the line, literally, the first time I've ever seen this, I've never seen this before. I get it. People been cooped up in their house. They want something different. But it was all the way down the highway. And I couldn't help but wonder how many people are using part of their stimulus check to buy crabs with, and how many people are using the stimulus check to buy things that really doesn't move them closer to their financial vision. And so you really do have to become one with your thought processes, and you have to be able to recall the feelings and the emotions to recount your steps in order for you to correct them. And so if you're not aware of them, it's very difficult for you to correct them. So I would like for you to join me in this little exercise and just really start to consider your experiences from the past perspective of even maybe childhood incidents where you were made to feel like you weren't good enough or you didn't measure up. All of these emotions are tied to how you treat your finances. And so a lot of times we make financial decisions based on emotional needs rather than what we are actually required for living comfortably. Right? And so your debt has something to do with how you secretly feel about yourself. You can't just want the numbers to be straight. You have to have the foundational money mindset to be straight also. I had a friend who used to always say that a low self-esteem is one of the most expensive things to finance. And so other issues like self-worth issues and loneliness and the feelings of rejection and being unwanted. I see this a lot when I work with people, especially with women that had their fathers abandon their families early on in their lives. I had to deal with these same issues. My dad was an absentee father. You know, he was a teenager when he had me, and it took me years as an adult to realize that he could only love me to the extent that he was loved. But that's a whole nother Facebook Live. But I realized that I had daddy issues, right? And it showed up in how I was treating my money. And so if your daddy walked out to go to the grocery store and he never came back, those feelings of abandonment and feelings of rejection also affect how you treat your money. Low self-esteem, abandonment issues, financial shame. If you grew up, I've had clients who grew up who were really, really poor. And so it affects how they treat their money today with constantly spending, trying to prove to people, you know, that they're not that same, you know, poor little girl or poor little boy that they used to be. And so financial shame, feelings of inadequacy, you know, stress, feelings of being insignificant. People really do believe that the more financially successful they look, the more respect that they get. And so looking successful and being successful are totally two different things. They're not the same thing. And so we have to get out of wanting to look good instead of really being good financially. And so the fear of never having enough, you know, even attitudes of entitlement and self-doubt and self-criticism, you know, are all areas that emotionally are tied to the way that you treat your money. And so these things really do sabotage your financial future. And often, you know, oftentimes, you know, all of them will keep you from the path of true financial freedom. And so engaging in this conversation really is about self-discovery. You know, engaging is your understanding why you make the purchases that you make. And so engaging is the self-discovery stage of the money zones that would help you build from the right position. And so to design a freedom-based lifestyle that really you deserve. And so life will be transformed when you start to do this. And so when your money mindset and your spirit operate in synergy, right? When they're in tandem or they're running parallel to each other, the universe really does begin to send opportunities for increase your way. I've seen it over and over and over again. Yesterday, I just had a conversation with my youngest son about staying in motion. And so it's amazing. It's an amazing experience to be able to be aware and recognize and see this happening right before your eyes. And so a diminished sense of self-worth oftentimes drives unhappy behaviors with money and unprofitable financial habits. And money mismanagement can be caused by many cultural things also, even in everyday life, family messaging, our unique cultural history. That plays a part in who you are today and how you treat your money. And so it's the perfect time to deal with your emotional barrier during the shift in the economy that's happened, so you can be ready to take advantage of opportunities. If it's not in this economic shift, you can put yourself in position for the next one. Where we are today wasn't where we were in 2008 when that crash happened. And I made it a point that I wasn't going to miss the next market correction. And I'm not. And so, but that took even me changing my mindset and changing emotionally how I handled my money. And so our internal money makeup is really broken down into 4 different spheres. And I want you to write these down. Hopefully you're never coming to my lives without pen and paper anyway. So you can write these down, but now you have time to really spend time and think about it since we're in the house or you're working from home. But there's a mental money zone. There's an emotional money zone. Then there's the spiritual money zone. And then that deals with your belief system, how you believe about money. But all three of these together make up the physical money zone, what you see in the natural and how you treat your money. And so that's why we have to deal with our mindset. I talk about money and mindset all the time. I'm developing an amazing program now called Rich Minds, based off of the things that I've just learned recently in the past, year or so about money mindsets. But it's your mental money zone, your emotional money zone, which is what I really want to deal with right now, your spiritual money zone and your physical money zone. And so I want to talk about the part of that scripture that says, even as your soul, the emotional part of money, even as your soul prospers. And so the part that keeps you up at night, the part that keeps you paralyzed from not moving, the part that keeps you complaining about COVID-19, the part that keeps you producing excuses for not mastering your money. And so the emotional money zone, I'm not going to be with you much longer, but the emotional money zone that we talked about, when I was talking about the 4 money zones, the really is important. It's a tricky one because most people don't understand that your emotions affect your spending patterns. Your emotions affect your spending patterns. And so your emotional money zone is just as has as much influence, right, over your financial habits as your mental money zone, as your money mindset does. And so emotional spending occurs, or emotional spending happens when an individual spends money for the sole purpose of improving their mood. It's sort of like binge eating, right? For people who binge eat, you can have the same effect with emotional spending. And so it becomes a high, and it can become very, very dangerous. I know people who I've met with, women who actually hide their purchases from their husbands, in the trunk of their car. They hide them in the back of their closets, and, they're not paying bills on time until it just mounds up, and, they don't know what to do. But emotional spending is a real thing that people struggle with. And so some reasons people engage in emotional spending are to improve or maintain their moods, to be able to cope with stress. We're living in a stressful time right now, to deal with loneliness and to improve your self-esteem. And so, I deal with this a lot with my clients, and I never understood why people who were financially stressed out would go spend more money that they really didn't have. But once I begin to dig deep in this issue, I could understand it. And so when you are made aware of the feelings that you're feeling when you go, I often tell people, pay attention. Why are you on Amazon 24 hours a day buying stuff that you really don't need? Figure out, what are you going through? What feelings are you feeling at the moment that you click on Amazon? Are you bored? Feelings of boredom have you out here overspending. And so again, when you are made aware of these feelings that you're feeling when you go and you make bad financial decisions, you have the ability to change the decisions that you're now making because you're aware. Emotional spending can lead to spending money on unnecessary purchases, which reduces the amount of money available for meaningful purchases or necessary savings, or you having the ability to invest in your future. The problem with emotional spending is that it adds up, and eventually you spend more than you need to. And so you have to get control of your emotional spending. And so with any problem, the first step in dealing with emotional spending, I said earlier, was acknowledgement. You have to acknowledge what you are doing. And so after that, try curbing your emotional spending by taking stock of what you already own. Perfect example. My son is graduating next month with his graduate degree. We went up to move him out of his apartment. He has more clothes than enough. Like, I didn't even know where to start. To be honest, I just sat down on his bed. I didn't even know where to start with packing up his stuff because it was just so much stuff. And so we joked because last night he started, he has a new hobby that he eventually wants to start selling, but he started tie-dyeing everything. He was like, Mom, you have some bleach? And him and his sister just went in the bathroom and started tie-dyeing everything. Their stuff actually looks really, really nice. And I said to him, you feel like you just went shopping, didn't you? You got a whole new wardrobe. He tie-dyed like 10 sweatshirts and, you know, they t-shirt, a bunch of t-shirts and stuff. And so I'm like, you feel like you have new clothes, a whole new outfit now. And he laughed and he was like, you're right, I do. Listen, take inventory of the things that you already have. You know, you have to know how you know, what you own, so you can calculate the cost of emotional spending, the cost that it's having on your finances of robbing you of opportunities. There's a cost that you pay when you're caught in the cycle of emotional spending. And so for the people that may waste the $1,200 and not use it, hey, Adam, really quick, I want you guys to see this. So recently, you made so many trades. What was the trade last week that you did for like $200 and you got like a 250% return in one day on your money?
There was a couple. I was in on Gilead when it was up when it went up 10% overnight. Also Roku. I think it was Roku.
Roku was your favorite last week. Roku. But what I really want you to see is the opportunity. You may spend $100, $200 on Amazon. Amazon is not giving you a 250% return on your money. And so that's what I mean when I talk about it robs you of opportunities to be able to multiply your money during this time. And so there is a cost. And you need to pay attention to the cost that has caught us in the cycle of emotional spending. And so you have to pay attention to the signs of your emotional money zone. And so I'm going to give you some questions and you can come back and replay this as we end. But I want to give you some questions that you can ask yourself. Number one, am I more likely to spend money on unplanned purchases when what? You fill in the blank. You know, you fill in the blank. I'm more likely to spend money on unplanned purchases when what? You and your husband get in an argument. You know, after I have an argument with my significant other, when my bills come in and I open them up and I see how much debt I have, you know, I get upset. So I start to spend money. Or, you know, you can fill in the blank. Only you can fill that in. And so I can't fill that in for you, but I'm more likely to spend money on unplanned purchases when what? Fill in the blank. Number two, whenever I spend money on unplanned purchases, I'm usually feeling what? What are you feeling? Fill in the blank. Whenever I spend money on unplanned purchases, I'm usually feeling what? Am I feeling depressed? Am I feeling, you know, do I have anxiety going on? Am I stressed out? Like, you have to recognize what those feelings are so you can change it. Number three, the result of my unplanned spending is usually what? Fill in the blank. The result of my unplanned spending is usually what? There are always going to be consequences to unplanned spending. So the result of my unplanned spending are usually what? Again, fill in that blank. And then the last one is to replace the unplanned purchases and impulse spending. I can choose to do what? Fill in that blank. To replace the unplanned purchases and impulse spending, I can choose to, you know, keep walking, not buy the item, write it down on my wish list, or, you know, go back and purchase it later on when it's more financially feasible for me to do it. You fill in that blank. Because you can always change your emotional money zone when, you know, you're ready to shift. That's up to you. You have to participate in your own rescue during this time. You can't depend on nobody else to rescue you. And so there's a cost to emotional spending that you have to count the cost and decide, is it worth you risking your financial future over? Remember, financial freedom, financial independence, financial, you know, security all come at a cost. Are you willing to pay the price? And so, listen, it's not your forever. COVID-19 is not going to be here forever. The unemployment rate is not going to be what it is today forever. You know, jobs are not going to be what it is today forever. I don't think we're going to go back to how things used to be, but I think we have the ability to create a whole new beautiful tomorrow. right? We have that ability. And so it's not your forever. Where you are today is not your forever. I need you to be able to see that. Seasons change. You know, I'm so thankful that God created the change of the seasons. Seasons change. Your today is not your forever if you don't want it to be. Your today is not your tomorrow if you don't want it to be. So I know we took a little bit longer today, but I really felt like I wanted to talk about emotional spending because of what was going on in the market with COVID, and people are struggling. They're, worried. They're staying up at night, being stressed out over this. And so while you are being stressed out over it, you can choose at any time to change your situation. You can spend the time becoming creative. You can spend the time becoming resourceful. Use that energy doing something that lines up with the vision that you have for your money and your finances. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you soon.